So today I will cover what I was able to code up last Monday. I spent a lot of time last week, multiple days last week, just coding, working on this CRUD application, doing a CRUD command line application in Python to connect to a MongoDB, Mongo database. And what I have today is what we see here. I'll scroll up to the top. So you can see I have my imports, my create post, I have a read post function, and I have an update post function. I haven't gotten to the delete post functionality implementation yet as of last Monday, but again, this is all that I did for last Monday. So I want to condense this into a succinct video as much as I can, reproduce it for you here, hit the high points, and demonstrate the CRUD application functionality in Python using a Mongo database, MongoDB. So I'll start with something new here. Oh, let me start with a demonstration instead first. So here we are, current working directory. Here we are in the directory where the application for last Monday is, as you can see up here. I'm running Linux, a lightweight version of Linux on an old laptop, because that's just what I do. So, as you can see, I've got a simple user interface here that allows the user to enter a selection by inputting an integer 1 to 5. So I believe I have something in the database right now. I think I dropped it earlier today or last night whenever I was working on it, so I have to start over. This is no big deal, just check to see if I have a few posts in there. So I'll try to find my post, my name. No, it did not. Okay, it did not preserve that. So let's make one. Create a post. Yeah. All right, and so there you have it. So that printed the post, posted the, well, it didn't actually post, it inserted, because post has to do with a web-based application. But this is not a web-based application, this is a strict command line application. So we're only using Python, no web server, just the MongoDB server. Well, I guess that's technically a web server because it's hosted on localhost. Anyhow, touche. So we have a connection string to the database on the local host. We have a connection to the database, I should say, on the local host. Now we should be able to read that post, so I can enter the number 2, and I set it up to where I allow the user to search by first name, last name, or post title. So I'll search by first name, my name, and there it is. And as you can see, MongoDB gave it an ID, and we can retrieve it. Cool. And at that point, I think that's, actually, I think I can update it. I'll try updating. So maybe I can change my first name. Sometimes I go by Nate. And yep, I want to update this post. Oh, wait. Oh, interesting. So this has already been in there. No, I do not want to enter that post. Okay. So let me try this here. Update by author first name. Okay, there we go. Yes, I want to update that. And yes, I want to update the first name. Sometimes I go by Nate. And there you go. So as you can see, this should be the same ID I need to set up my screen recorder. One moment. And start it again. So as you can see, I have the same ID here, with a BE, as we do up here. So, oh, wait. Oh, I went by Nate in that one, so hang on. Okay, let me try this one more time here. I think I had a duplicate going on. So I will try to update by the first name, so I'll type in my full name, Nate, and try to change it to Nate. I did not like that. Alright, let's try this again. How about we read? Again, at this point last Monday, I was not focused on updating. I was focused on more the creating and the reading. So we'll read by first name. See if that's there. Ah, there's nothing in there by Nathan. Okay. So what if I read by Nate? Got one. Okay, there we go. So now if I update that post, update by author first name, I know that I have one in there where the author first name is Nate. So yes, I want to update that post. I want to update the author first name. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. Perfect. So I have the same ID here as I did up here, and now I have my new name and there's my old name. So the update feature does work. So I did make it that far last Monday. Cool. So now I can use my R5 and I can exit. Don't want to drop the database. Nope. Now we're good. So let's work through this. All right. So first things first, I'm not going to go over everything, so I'm going to do some copy and pasting. I'm going to do my imports. Import by Mongo, of course. Import date, time, and pretty print, and Mongo client. I don't think I used the BSON object ID. I was using that for something else, but I don't think I'm using that now. Still, I'll just hang on to it for right now. Setting up the database connection. I'm going to call this. It's going to live at the default 27017 port on the local host. I'm not going to cover setting up Mongo or Python right now in this, perhaps another module, but for right now it is working, it's up and running on the default port of 27017, so that's how we set it. Set up our database, our collections, and our posts. Oop, do that. Come down here, do that. So I know that I'm going to need create, read, update, delete, or destroy, however you want to pick your poison, if you will. So I know that I need to define a create post, and I'm going to pull in posts, pass in posts to the create post function. One moment. And I know that I'm going to pass in posts to the create post function. I also know that I'll need a read post, and I'll need an update post function. And then for my main control logic function, which is going to call each of these, I know, well, I'll do my, I called it delete post. I'll pass post into that as well. So usually I just call it do stuff because it does stuff. It's the master control logic function that we use to coordinate all this stuff. I'll flip over here. I'll do it this way. I'll go on down to, I'll do a top-down. How about that? Top-down design, bottom-up implementation. Old school. So I know I have to offer the user a choice. And this is something that I messed up here at the end of that workday, but I fixed it in later iterations of the code. I know that in Python, at least the way this is doing it, whenever we take an input function in Python that inputs from the user a string or a character, so it's treated as a string, not an integer. So that's me coming from my old C++ background. And so what needs to happen over here is my choice actually needs to be in quotes to designate a string. So it needs to know that this is a string. So we set that as 0, default to 0. While choice is not equal, again, we need it to be a string. 5, we have, need to do that. If, okay, if choice equals 1, make it a string, then we create a post. This is, I believe, fairly straightforward conditional logic. It's just a control structure within a control loop. That's all it is, so that this will keep displaying until the user tells it to quit. And that way it won't just run once, give the user one choice, and then in the program we can actually keep looping through and allow the user to do multiple operations without having to restart the program, again from the command line. And again, we have to pass posts through there, and so on and so forth. So right now I think this is pretty self-explanatory and you can study the code. So I'm going to cheat and I'm going to copy, I'm going to sling some copy pasta around. And so now I also wanted to give the user an opportunity to drop the database if they wanted to. So we'll do, because sometimes you want to start from a clean slate. Drop database equals no by default. So drop database, then we ask the user what they want to do. Input drop database test, and I call it test database 2 up here. Yes, oh no. Default is new. So we get that input from the user via the handy dandy input command, which is really kind of nice because it combines an input, like a cin, if you're coming from a C++ background, or C background, combines the cin with an assignment and this nice syntactic sugar that we've got going on here in Python. So if database now equals yes, we can restart my video. So now if drop database is yes, and I want to drop the database, we can call our client drop database argument, and we can, oh, well, now I know what my problem was from before. Because even though I specified drop database test database 2, that was incorrect for here. So that's why it dropped. Yep, I get it. So I needed to specify here drop test database 2, and I need to do drop database test database 2. Yep, wrong one. That's okay. There we go. Alright, so now we save that. And now we have to execute a break to break out of the loop. That's okay. And then we're done. Oh, this part anyway. So the nice thing about this editor is that it shows which parameters that I've passed into my function are actually utilized within that function. So here, posts is utilized, but database and collection are not. So I'm just going to skip those for now, and I'm just going to use posts right there for the time being. Oh yes, I have to print out our handy dandy menu here. So I want to let the user know, please make a selection from 1 to 5. And then, again, for the sake of time, I think it's okay. I think we all understand what a print statement does right now. And I'm going to save a little bit of time. Do that, save that. So now I want to comment out these here so I get rid of my errors. And now I work on create post. Save this. Let's go back up to create post, take a look at that there. And here we go. Oh, let's read post. Here we go. So I know that I want to print a string create post. So again, I'm using this nice handy input statement and assignment operation at the same time. Author, first name, input, enter, author, first name. And so now, since I think it's clear what's going on here, I am going to copy paste that in there, save a little time that way while I'm building up this structure again. So now I am working on the construction of a JSON, the JavaScript object notation, I believe it is, which is the syntax that MongoDB uses for its NoSQL data that it stores in its collections or that it keeps in the database. So that consists of, in my case, a post, and the syntax is a set of curly brackets, and in this case it's going to be a string, author, first name, and the colon comes after because we're doing a key value pair, or parameter value pair, however, parameter and a key, or however you want to particularly call it. I've heard it called a key value pair mostly in most of what I've done. And then we take our author first name, which had a nice pop up there. So we take our author first name right here, and then do the author last name and so on. Let's get rid of that author last name. Use a title. And I use the text for the post body, and the date is a datetime UTC now. So this is a function that references the time on the PC at the moment that this is executed. And I can do my pretty print. Post. And I was using post ID for some stuff, but I phased that out. I remember doing that now, so I don't actually use that at this point. But still, I'll keep it here because that's what I did. I just kind of use what I did as a blueprint, as a guide. I'm going to insert post, excuse me, as by means of the insert one command, which is pymongo, and return the ID. So post ID will actually get that ID. So why not? I'll go ahead and print post ID, just so we can see that. And I'll do a print post successful. Yay! Okay. So that one works. That one's good. Should be. So we'll take a look. Let's see. That's from last Monday. Let me open up a new window here, a new terminal. Tell you what, we'll go over to a different. Kill that. We'll go over here, so there's no nastiness on the background. And that was so we're going into today. There we go. So over here, view all the files in there to our Python. And run it. Oh, invalid syntax. Let's see here. How do I manage that? Oh, anyway. Duh. Need a def statement, don't we? There we go. Alright. Figure that out. Do this. Oh! Messed up something. Kill that. Alright. Go back and fix that. Oh, I know. This shouldn't be that way because that makes this already set. So what I could do, I could do that. I can do that. Got it. That should be okay now. Because it's set to something other than a string. And I need to, oh, I just noticed, I don't get any input. It doesn't ask the user for any input here. So, what I need to do is choice input. That can do that, it'll still be okay, because I need to update choice within a loop. There we go. So we can create the post. So we can create the post. First name. Alright, and you see there, we have the post itself before we send it to the database. And then after it gets inserted into the database, it gives us its post ID. Pretty cool. So we know the database is talking to our application. We know this is working. We know that the post actually is successful. Now we can exit. Hopefully this works. Nope. Don't want to drop that. Okay. We'll go back over here. I'm going to work through the read post, I think rather quickly, because this is all that the read post is. So you know that you need a simple submenu here. And so again, I'm just going to copy it. At this juncture, I used the first name, the last name, and the post title because I didn't want to mess with the text of the post body, the message. I didn't want to bother searching through that, so I only used the first three. So we have that as our menu there. So now we have to ask the user for a choice. So we'll do our read choice equals input, enter a selection. Excuse me. So while read choice is not equal to the string 4, because that would exit, we're going to have an if block to control our logic here. If read choice equals 1, do that. I like to sometimes, whenever I know what I'm planning to do, it's kind of helpful to me to implement the structure and then go back in and do the actual logic. So in this case, we'll just tab out of that. This will be our third condition. fourth condition. You can even say just else. And we know here that we're going to break out of the loop. For this one, if the read choice is 1, we're going to do our author first name. Same thing we did before. So we can even just copy from here. See, once you get some of your work down, many people probably know this, but you can start automating some of the process by the repetition. Because once you have one small block working, then you can kind of build those Legos together and start making bigger and bigger chunks of blocks that also work, that you're pretty daggum sure are going to work a lot of the time. Again, these axiomatic, these atomic axioms type of code that has been tested, that's pretty straightforward, and you know it's going to work. You have a high level of confidence that it's going to work. So again, we can go back up to what we've done already. But to do stuff with it, I have to come over here. Okay, say, what's my logic? What am I doing? I have to retrieve something from the database. So we have to find one. And again, it's about getting one thing to work. So does this cover all the cases? No, because find one only finds the first instance of an element in the database with the required parameters met, with the requirements met, the key value pair. It doesn't find them all. So I wanted to get this working first, and then again, as I worked a lot more last week, towards the end of the week, I got more of this working, and I got the find working, actually, and I handle those exceptions, I handle those cases. But for now, we'll just get one at a time. So we're just going to do a find one, and we're just going to print it, because I just want to read from the database, just want to read it. Go to our pretty print. Now, that's the nice thing about a scripting language, is that you can nest the clauses. I can nest my post find, so I don't even have to do something different with this. So I can do my post find one where the author first name equals the author first name. And that's it. And there we go. So we've built that. And now, again, this is kind of how I work, kind of a logical way to work, I think. Now I can just copy and paste a couple things because I'm doing the same thing. I don't have to keystroke all that in, don't have to type all that in. So this time it's going to be the author last name. I think I've got everything hunky-dory there. There we go. And you can see it sees the same case there. I use this goes to a side point. You see me here, I use predominantly camel case because it's the hump on the, I don't know, it's capitalized in the middle of the word. I don't use the snake case, I guess, with the underscore. Only very little. The reason that I used it up here with the post ID is because if you have a, oh wait, maybe I can actually show this over here. Oh, here we go. Oh, we'll see it in a minute. We'll see it in a minute. Hang on. Let's do it this way. The reason that I use the underscore there is because that's a notation that MongoDB returns to you whenever you do a find call for the post ID, because it has a little indicator, a little the parameter for the key is an underscore and then ID. So I tried to keep that notation so that I know that, you know, hey, this is MongoDB's way of doing it, which I'm fine with, you know. They kind of, you know, you can mix and match, but predominantly I come, like I say, from a old school C++ background, and most of the time back then, whenever I was taught, whenever I went through the classes, you do the camel case. The first letter of the first word is not capitalized, and then the successive letters in multiple words, they're run together, and you have a capitalized character for each of those words. So let's do the print of the last name, and then this one's going to be post title, and this one's going to be, oh, how do we do that? Oh, so we got to go back up here. See, here we called it the title. See, it's just called the title here. I just called it the title there, and so it's not post title, it is just title. So that's how we build that key value pair. And do some testing, do the read by author first name, go by Nathan. There we go. Cool. Oh, I think I have an incorrect sitting there in my loop. I did not break. I know what I did. We'll fix that. Easy fix. But while we're here, you can see here, that's what I was talking about. See, my ID has an underscore ID. That's how MongoDB does things. So just kind of flow with it. Flow with the go with the flow, whatever. So now this is stuck in an infinite loop, and I just forgot to add a couple of break statements, and we'll do that right now. So I'm going to Control-C, get out of my terminal, do my keyboard interrupt, come back over here, see what I need to do after these, because otherwise it's just going to keep looping. So what I need to do is do a break after each of these in order to get out of there. Save that, go over here, do that, run that, first name. There we go. So there, it found the one, and we're good. Cool. And then it takes us back to the, where's my mouse here? There we go. It takes us back to our main menu, which is pretty cool. So that's really kind of nice. So we know we've got create working, we've got read working. I might get to update here. I'm running a little long. I think what I'll do is I will just look at update for right now, and we'll go through that because it's fairly straightforward. There's some interesting stuff going on there, but let's see here. So this is the one that we've just been building. Let's look at this here. So update starts with read. You're doing the same stuff in update that you're doing with read, because you have to find the post that you're interested in first, and then change a part of it, then write it again. So that's the logic. So as you can see, I mean, if you look at this, my control structure is the same. It's the same thing as read. See, all I did was change read to update from my menu. So this is effectively the same thing. I wait for the user input, and these here, the control structure is the same. These here are the find one, so I find the thing, then I'll print it. Then is where the extra stuff happens. So it's really just, so update is really just read with some extra stuff, with another step to update, to actually change the post that you found. So I had all this all this mess that's an update by post ID, I had all that in the function because that's just kind of how I work. I'll start writing that way, and then I will start breaking stuff down piece by piece by piece, and I'll take out what I can so that I don't replicate code, so that functions don't have to be this big when they can only need to be this big. So let's go to update by post ID. Where did I put that? Here we go. So update by post ID. This one probably has some yeah, it's got some stuff going on, but it's pretty straightforward now that we've seen everything else going on. And maybe I'll just leave it as an exercise for somebody to think over and look at in your own time. You figure out how to do it. So again, I've got my while loop control logic for the submenu, for the update submenu. And I ask if they want to update this post. So I give them that option. So do you want to? Maybe, maybe not. You know, is this the one you want to update? So I'm setting the stage for giving multiple posts, for retrieving multiple posts. So after setting the stage for doing multiple posts, for handling multiple posts, I should say, I ask the user, what do you want? How do you want to, which one do you want to change? Which attribute do you want to change? Do you want to change the first name, last name, title, or the message body, the post body, text? So if the user says, well, the author first name, let's change the author first name. So we give them that opportunity. You know, it's, again, this is building on what we've already built on. So you're starting to see some of the similarities in how these menus and submenus actually work. It's really just control logic, and it's just different layers built on top of what you have already determined works. So that's really kind of nice. Whenever you can make it work out that way, it's really kind of nice. So we have the author first name. So this is the one big takeaway, I guess. You're going to search by ID. This is the format, the syntax of the update one method of PyMongo. You're going to search by ID, and you're going to feed in the post ID. That's where we wanted the post ID. And so, as you can see here, post ID is a parameter passed into update by post ID. We pass the post, and we pass the post ID. I could probably rewrite it to get around that and not have to pass this in, because you can get the ID from the post itself, but maybe 6 and 1. So we pass it the post ID. So we're going to find it. So it's going to update it by the post ID. This just gets into some more MongoDB stuff. I'm not entirely sure how MongoDB does it, but you can read about that in the MongoDB documents. And so we're going to set, using the set parameter set command here. So we're going to set the author first name of the element where the post ID is post ID. So we're going to set that for author first name to author first name. That's it. That's what we're doing. Now what I'm doing, I'm not just printing the post, I'm actually, so I've set it, I've done an update action, function execution, I've executed the update functionality. Now I'm going to find it. I'm going to find that same thing where the author first name equals that one. So again, this works for one only, I think, because it's just going to find one. But the point is, I could actually do it by ID, but here I'm doing it by author first name because I'm just testing the functionality. So then you get that same post back, and I'm printing that same post so that I can know that the author first name has been updated, and then update successful. And that's it. That is just repeated, replicated through the last name, the post title, and the post body. So hopefully this has been helpful to you, and It's been a learning experience for me. I'm enjoying it. I love doing this stuff, and I hope you like it. I hope you get something out of it. And like, share, subscribe, all that fun jazz, and I can keep doing this for y'all. And yeah, peace out.